I'm the ASMR psychologist. Welcome to my channel. Now, today we're going to be doing a personality test. This test looks at perfectionism. Now, perfectionism is a continuum. It's not the case that you either are a perfectionist or you're not a perfectionist. So, at the one end of this continuum, you have a complete disregard for how things are done, almost a carelessness. And then at the other end of the continuum, you have what we call clinical perfectionism. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that at the end of the test. Obviously, as with all things, the ideal place to be on any continuum is in the middle. That's your balancing point. So I'm going to take you through a list of questions today, and your answers to those questions will help you to work out whether or not perfectionism is an issue for you and how much of an issue it is for you. Some of these questions will be relatively easy to answer. You may already have an idea of whether this is a problem for you, and others will be slightly trickier. So just try and go with whatever feels right or resonates with you. Try not to think too deeply about your answers. Okay, so let's begin. Okay, so we have 20 questions. This is question number 1. Do you find it hard to accept second best from yourself? Okay, good. Question 2. Do you feel that you must meet all of your responsibilities without fail? Okay, good. Question 3. Do you feel there is a constant pressure for you to achieve and get things done? Okay, good. Okay. Question 4. Do you feel that you must be the best at most of what you do? Okay, that's good. Okay, so question 5. Do you find it hard to let yourself off the hook? Okay, good. Okay, right. Okay, question 6. Do you feel anxious if you are interrupted and can't finish a task that you have started? Okay. That's good. Okay, question 7. Do you feel uncomfortable if you have to submit a piece of work if you've only checked it once? Good. Right. Next question. Question 8. Do you revisit past mistakes or slip-ups and give yourself a hard time about them? That's good. Question 9. Do you carry around a feeling that nothing is ever good enough? Okay. I see. That's good. That's quite a common one. Feeling of not being good enough, but I think probably one people don't talk about very often or enough. Question 10. Do you have very high standards? Okay, so halfway through. Question 11. Are you critical of yourself if you do not meet these standards? Let me see. That's good. Okay. Question 12. Do you hold others to these standards? Good. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Question 13. Are you critical of others if they do not meet your standards? Okay. 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 So, question 14. Do you worry that others will reject you if you reveal the real version of yourself? Okay. Okay. Good. Do you put off starting new projects because you feel a pressure that they must be done perfectly? Okay. 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 A few more questions. 16. Would others describe you as a perfectionist? Often. Quite telling. Question 17. Do you think that your approach to things is a step above just trying to do your best? Okay. Question 18. Do you think your performance is a reflection of your value or worth as a person? Okay. Good. Okay, so last two questions. Question 19. Do you think that others think this? Okay. And last question. Do you disagree with any of the following? Mistakes make us human. Failure makes us grow. Okay? The greatest mistake a person can make is to be afraid of making one. Okay? Forget the mistake. Remember the lesson. Okay? You don't learn to walk by following rules. You learn by doing and by falling over. And finally, mistakes are inevitable. Okay. Good. Very good. Okay, so that is the end of the personality test. So let's look at how we score it. So obviously it was a yes or no test. If you've answered yes to at least 2 of the questions, then you can think of yourself as a perfectionist. Now, if you answered yes to 3 or more questions, there's quite a high possibility that you are what we call a clinical perfectionist. So let me explain a little bit about that. So perfectionism is when kind of just trying to do a good job tips over in trying to do the best you possibly can all of the time, and being quite intolerant of yourself if you don't achieve that. Clinical perfectionism is when this desire becomes something that you need to do in order to feel okay. And it can become quite disruptive for your day-to-day life. It can, in addition to creating lots of feelings of frustration, it can become very time-consuming, and it can begin to interfere with your ability to meet other responsibilities. It can start to interfere with your relationships. It almost is what we call a self-fulfilling prophecy. We create the very thing that we fear, and we stop doing a good job and actually start doing quite a poor job across the board. And perfectionism, and in particular clinical perfectionism, is a sign of low self-esteem and confidence. It's a way of trying to make up for a feeling of not being good enough. There is quite a lot that can be done to resolve these behaviours. The very first step, though, is knowing that this is an issue for you. Identifying a problem puts you in a much stronger position to do something about it. Okay, so maybe we'll talk a little bit more at another point about how to manage perfectionism and clinical perfectionism, how to get on top of these problems. But for now, I'd just like you to think about the answers to your questions, and think about how your behaviours impact on your daily life, how they make you feel and what they make you do. This will enable you to step back a little bit from them. And often when we do that, we can start to see other options that maybe we couldn't see before. Okay, so I hope that this was helpful for you. And of course, I will hopefully see you at the same time next week for another personality test.